Dear brothers and sisters, welcome back to our Saint Stories channel. Today, we embark on a journey into one of the most extraordinary and intimate encounters between a saint and our Lord Jesus Christ. Imagine this. What if Jesus himself came to you, looked into your soul and said, "Let me take your heart and give you mine instead"? What if this divine exchange left behind real, tangible evidence, proof that could not be denied? This is exactly what happened to Saint Catherine of Siena, a woman of profound faith whose love for Christ was so deep that he answered her prayers in a way no one could have ever imagined. Saint Catherine, a 14th century mystic, theologian, and doctor of the Church, was no stranger to divine encounters. From an early age, she experienced visions of Christ and the saints, drawing her ever closer to the depths of his sacred heart. But among all the heavenly graces she received, one vision stands above the rest, the moment when Jesus removed her heart and replaced it with his own. A mystical experience, so powerful, so transformative, that it changed her forever. And the most incredible part? There was physical proof that it truly happened. In this video, we will unveil this breathtaking encounter, what led to it, the very words Christ spoke to her, and the supernatural evidence that left even skeptics in awe. This is a story of divine love, a heart transformed, and a soul set ablaze for Christ. Saint Catherine of Siena was no ordinary woman. From the time she was a small child, her soul burned with a love so profound, so all-consuming, that it could only be explained as divine. Born in 1347 in the city of Siena, Italy, she was the youngest of 25 children. While other children played in the streets, Catherine found herself drawn into prayer, experiencing visions of Jesus from the tender age of 6. One day, as she walked through the busy streets of Siena, her eyes were suddenly lifted to the sky. There, in a vision more real than the world around her, she saw Christ enthroned in glory, dressed in radiant papal robes, with Saints Peter, Paul, and John by his side. In that moment, something changed in her. Her heart no longer belonged to the world, it belonged to him alone. From then on, Catherine sought nothing but complete unity with Jesus. She refused marriage, dedicating herself entirely to a life of prayer, fasting, and service. She would spend hours, sometimes entire nights, in deep contemplation, speaking to Christ as if he were right in front of her. And in a way, he was, because he often appeared to her. But Catherine's devotion was not just about seeing Christ. It was about being one with him. She longed to share in his suffering, to understand the depths of his love, and this longing led her to one of the most profound devotions in the Church, the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Long before the famous visions of Saint Margaret Mary Alacoque, before the devotion to the Sacred Heart became widely known, Catherine was already experiencing a deep, mystical connection with the wounded side of Christ. She often spoke of it not as something distant, but as a place where souls could take refuge, where they could be nourished as a child is nourished at a mother's breast. She wrote with striking imagery, desiring to drink deeply from the blood that poured from Christ's side, longing to be bathed in it, to be completely consumed by his love. She even described a desire to hide inside Christ's wounded side, as though it were a safe and sacred dwelling place. She would say, "Do you want to be safe? Then hide yourself within his side." For Catherine, this was not just poetic language. It was a spiritual reality. She believed that the very heart of Christ was an open storehouse of love, a place of sweetness and delight, where souls could find strength and renewal. And she didn't just speak of this love, she lived it. She spent her days caring for the sick, feeding the poor, and offering herself in sacrifice for the salvation of souls. She fasted for long periods, surviving only on the Eucharist, and bore intense sufferings, yet she never wavered in her joy. Her body may have grown weak, but her soul was on fire. And then one day something happened that would change her forever. One of the most astonishing, intimate, and miraculous moments in the life of any saint. A vision so profound that it would leave behind physical evidence of Christ's love. It was the day that Jesus exchanged his heart with hers. It was a moment unlike any other, a moment where heaven and earth seemed to dissolve into one. Saint Catherine of Siena, wrapped in the depths of divine contemplation, found herself crying out to the Lord with the words of the psalmist, "Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me." But what she could never have expected was that Jesus would take these words literally. On this fateful day, Catherine was praying with an intensity beyond anything she had ever known. Her love for Christ burned so fiercely within her that it was as if her very soul was calling out for transformation. She longed, with every fiber of her being, to love as Christ loved, to have a heart that was pure, selfless, and wholly united to his divine will. And then it happened. A sudden brilliance filled the space around her, and in an instant she was no longer alone. There before her stood Jesus, radiant with an indescribable light. His gaze, full of tenderness and love, met hers, and with a voice that echoed into the depths of her soul, he spoke, "My beloved daughter, since you have so often asked me for a new heart, today I take yours and give you mine." And then, before she could even comprehend what was happening, Jesus reached out and placed his hand upon her chest. With divine precision, he opened her left side, reached within her, and removed her heart. Catherine watched in awe as he held it in his hands, her own heart, small and human, imperfect yet full of love. Next, without hesitation, he disappeared. At that moment, Catherine felt something so strange, so utterly supernatural, that she struggled to put it into words. She no longer felt her heart within her. There was no pain, no wound, just a deep, unmistakable emptiness in her chest, as though her very essence had been taken from her. She rushed to her confessor, her voice trembling with conviction. "Father, my heart is gone. Jesus has taken it from me." Her confessor, hearing this, was understandably skeptical. He tried to reassure her, perhaps thinking it was a symbolic experience rather than a real physical event, but Catherine persisted. She knew what had happened. She could feel it. For days, she lived with this divine emptiness, a constant reminder that her heart no longer belonged to her. It belonged to Christ. And then, one day, when she least expected it, heaven came to her once again. Catherine had gone to pray in the church of the preaching friars in Siena, as she often did. The sacred silence wrapped around her, and as she fell into deep prayer, something extraordinary occurred. A brilliant light filled the entire church. In that heavenly radiance, Jesus appeared before her once more, but this time he was holding something in his sacred hands, something bright red, pulsating with divine life, glowing with a supernatural brilliance. It was a human heart. She could barely breathe as she gazed upon it, overwhelmed by the sheer glory of the moment. Then, with infinite tenderness, Christ approached her and spoke these life-changing words, "Dearest daughter, as I took your heart from you, now I give you mine, so that you may live with it forever." And with that, he placed his own sacred heart into her chest. The moment it entered her, Catherine's entire being was set ablaze. A fire of divine love unlike anything she had ever known coursed through her soul. She felt transformed, renewed, as though she had truly become one with Christ in a way beyond human comprehension. But Jesus did not leave her unchanged. As a sign of this miraculous exchange, he left behind something undeniable. A scar, a visible, physical mark where he had opened her side, a permanent reminder that her heart was no longer her own. This was no mere vision. It was real. Witnesses close to Catherine later confirmed that she indeed bore a scar over her heart, a tangible sign of the miraculous event. Even more astonishing, something else began to happen. Her companions began to hear the beating of her heart, not just faintly, but with a supernatural intensity. At times, when she was deep in prayer or receiving the Eucharist, her heart throbbed so powerfully that those near her could hear it as though it were resonating with divine energy. And it didn't stop there. From the moment of this sacred exchange, Catherine's life was never the same. Her love for Christ, already so profound, became even more consuming. She described feeling so much joy, so much warmth within her, that the flames of earthly fire seemed cold by comparison. She would say, "If only you could understand how I feel. My soul is so full of joy that I am amazed it can remain within my body." The transformation was complete. Catherine no longer loved with a human heart. She loved with the very heart of Jesus. And this, dear brothers and sisters, is what makes this vision so extraordinary. Not only did Jesus visit her, not only did he take her heart and replace it with his own, but he left behind undeniable proof that he had done so. This was not just a metaphor. This was a divine reality. Saint Catherine of Siena's life is a powerful testimony that Jesus does not remain distant. He longs to dwell within us, to transform us, and to make us love with his own sacred heart. Her mystical exchange of hearts was not just for her, it was a sign for all of us. Christ desires that we surrender completely to him, allowing him to reshape our hearts into perfect instruments of his divine love. And when we do, we will never be the same. So today, I invite you to reflect. Have you truly given your heart to Jesus? Are you ready to let him love through you, to transform you from within? If so, pray as Saint Catherine did. Create in me a new heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of faith and divine encounters. Check out our other videos on the lives of the saints and their powerful testimonies of God's love. May God bless you, and see you in our next video.